The Treaty of Versailles is one of the most impactful agreements in human history, dramatically reshaping Europe and the globe. Despite the intentions of Woodrow Wilson to cement a lasting peace, French Marshal Ferdinand Foch had a more accurate assessment of the treaty. This is not peace, it is an armistice for 20 years. 20 years later, Germany and the Soviets invaded Poland, triggering World War II. Greetings, you over 40,000 patriots and the 85% who unsubscribed yet. In hindsight, Versailles was an abject failure. So, to determine if you could come up with a better arrangement, I gathered 30 people from my Discord to represent every nation, ethnic group, and movement historically involved with the treaty. The rules were simple. Each was assigned votes to determine their influence, and events throughout the treaty would impact votes. This video is only on the Treaty of Versailles. All other treaties dealing with Austria, Hungary, Bulgaria, and Turkey will be hosted in the future. So if you're interested in representing a state, sign up and join my Discord server. Now, the Germans are ready to state their case.
We should all remember what happened to France after Napoleonic Wars, especially considering the first peace treaty that was signed, France was able to keep some of their gains. They were treated very leniently. And then only after Napoleon returned were they turned to their original borders. I think we need to recognize that a balance of power is very important in keeping peace, keeping, a lasting peace in Europe. I'd also like to harken back to something that Wilson has said in his 4 Principles and 5 Particulars speech, that we need to avoid annexations just for the sake of annexations and avoid punitive punishment to losing powers, because those will only stoke future wars and future conflicts.
So we will reconquer Alsace-Lorraine that are rightful French territory.
Yes, I agree. I think Alsace-Lorraine rightfully goes back to France. Any French government that returned home without Alsace-Lorraine would immediately collapse into probably civil war. We don't want to see that happen. They fought a long war. It's not debatable. It goes to them.
I will put my proposition. I'm willing to annex with autonomous status the Saarland and occupy for 20 years the Palatinate. And also, the reparation will be less harsh. So the proposal is that Germany will pay less war reparation, and if the economical situation is horrible, they cannot pay it in certain years, and they will also pay way less war reparation, and it will be made for 100 years. And I want to say another thing is that the Palatinate occupation zone will be also there will be some UK and USA force. So if I try to keep the land after the 20 years, they can force me to leave the regions. Palatinate is just an occupation zone for 20 years. And Saarland is annexed directly into France with autonomous status. This is my proposition.
Yes, so I just wanted to confirm. So the Saarland is a direct annexation by France, except with significant autonomy, whereas the Palatinate remains German territory, however, is occupied by Entente soldiers, mostly French soldiers, but with some American and British ones as well, for 20 years. It's a 20-year occupation zone.
While I can potentially get behind Saarland going into France, I'm not so sure how I can support a 20-year occupation of the Palatinate. I don't see the point of there being occupation of German soil. That's just going to stir up anti-French sentiment in Germany, and it's just going to cause friction. Already, if the Palatinate is going to France, it's already more than France wanted originally. Since we were just going to discuss the potential return of Alsace-Lorraine, and we're throwing in the Saarland in, why would we also occupy the Palatinate?
So this is in exchange for France agreeing to reduce military restrictions and reparations on Germany. I agree with the sentiment. I agree that it seems like a lot. However, this is what they've really been pushing for. This is their big concession. It earns us a lot of goodwill elsewhere, and I don't see possible compromise that France would agree to. And so it's a necessary sacrifice, I think.
Okay. I'm on the fence about it. I wanted to hear what Germany has to say about it before I, conclude.
Yeah, so if I can speak on the matter, I'd like to again harken back to my opening statement, especially with what Wilson has said in his previous statements. And I think France owning the Saarland fits exactly that idea of an annexation for the sake of annexation. The returning of Alsace-Lorraine makes sense from a historical perspective, but I think that additional land I think is a step too far, especially considering that we want to create a lasting peace, and this isn't about punishment for losing powers. I have an alternative proposal, which I'll show in a minute. I guess the explanation here is France would gain a little more than Alsace-Lorraine, seen by Luxembourg, which I believe they owned, I believe, in the 1600s or something around there. The black zone would represent a temporary, international occupation of, Belgian, British, and French forces. France would also be able to get the resources there to help pay off reparations, and the yellow would represent a demilitarized zone along the border.
I can accept this proposal, but you will have to pay the same reparation of war, and maybe more, and have the same harsh military restriction than in reality.
I have a compromise which could possibly be worked into some other things. It's not exactly a thing on its own. Where essentially the land that was given to France in 1814 during the Vienna Conference, which was taken away when Napoleon came back, they withdrew the offer. There was some land around there which was going to be given to them, which didn't end up going to them. I propose that we give that to France, and then other autonomous zones or occupation can be worked into that. I agree that it is a lot of land to be giving to the French. However, I also agree that that might be a necessary evil to achieve other aims in the conference, and in the end it's not that much. So yes, I would say in addition to the Saar and possibly an occupation zone or joint international zone or whatever we're going to do, I propose that this be given to France as well directly.
You know that you are giving some Palatinate lands, and I don't want it. I just want an occupation zone in Palatinate. So I prefer to have all the Saarland that have a little tiny of land that will bring nothing to my nation in the Palatinate. I don't want it.
I agree with France here. We don't want German territory to be annexed into France. Not non-Saarland, Palatinate land. We don't want that going to France.
Yeah, I don't want to directly annex the Palatinate. I just want to occupy for 20 years. But I think that in the map you send UK, I gain some land in Palatinate that it doesn't want. So why not just make me gain all of Saarland, and in exchange I don't annex any land in the Palatinate, just occupy it.
Why do you want to occupy the Palatinate? Are you looking to extract resources from it?
Just a defensive one, just a defensive for defenses.
A defensive fortification. Germany's not going to have a massive standing army to threaten you, because of the treaty. Why do you need it for defenses?
Because I propose for them to be to have a proper army.
France, I would vote for you, but can you support the Treaty of London exchange?
Yes, I will support you. Like I already say, I would support any claims that we agree in the Treaty of London for Italy.
Italian support was invaluable for the French as they defeated the German plan, meaning Alsace, Lorraine, and the Saar were given to France. Britain received no backing for their 1814 proposal as the Americans voted for Germany's idea. The bountiful coal from the Saar would be crucial for French reconstruction, as Germans heavily damaged French coal plants during the war. Talks shifted to the Rhine, where Belgium stated his claims.
We in Belgium believe we should gain some compensation for our suffering during the war, mainly in land. The Treaty of London was broken in 1914 with Germany invading our nation. I think we should regain Luxembourg and expand back into the Rhineland, mainly in Eupen, Normandy, Aachen, Bitburg, and parts of the Trier.
I'd like to bring up the fact that the lands I'm claiming right now used to be a part of the Spanish lowlands, which were in the area of Belgium. Yeah, Luxembourg too. I'd like to mention that they collaborated with the Germans willingly. So I kind of hold them responsible for all the war crimes that happened in my country and parts of France.
Can I speak on this? I think this shows a great deal of, I guess, hatred toward the German people. I think, again, trying to avoid punishment for the sake of punishment and annexations just because you can is the entire purpose of this treaty. So Belgium trying to just annex a victorious power, even someone who was declared war on by Germany, I think shows a lot about the Belgian delegation and their intentions in this conference.
Yeah, Belgium, you said I cooperated with the Germans in war, but that's only just of stabilizing our country. I mean, we had no choice but to make some choices that maybe shouldn't have been made if we had the choice, if we had different options. So I think, especially Luxembourg, should be an independent country because, well, they have been for a very long time, very stable. They are very strong there in the region. And yeah, I also have my own claims. I will see if I can post them. Yeah, I will support Belgium's claim, but I think I should get my green land that Germany stole from me in 1815.
You want to take Bitburg, basically.
Yeah.
In the midst of the discussions, shocking news arrived from the Rhine.
Due to the unprecedented times and the gross mismanagement by the Prussian-dominated government, for the treatment given to the citizens of the German Empire, the Rhenish delegates are hereby declaring an independent Republic of the Rhine.
The whole Western Front, we've kind of seen most of this, along with Belgium and France. So we've seen the front lines of it, and we're not exactly happy with Prussian dominance. So to further create a barrier and separate the possibility of remilitarizing Germany, the self-determination of the Rhenish people would like to be recognized by the great powers, such as France.
Germany, of course, does not recognize these claims at all. And in fact, I think that this independent movement is not nearly as popular as the Rhine would like to suggest. And again, I'd like to harken back to they kept France strong after the Napoleonic Wars, so the dismemberment of Germany by cutting off the Rhineland, I think, is a very bad move.
This is a dire situation. The Rhenish people are in open revolt against the Weimar Republic, and they are demanding our help against them. This is a difficult choice for France, because a direct intervention of the army would be seen as a bellicist action, especially for the UK and the USA. So, me, Clemenceau, the head of the state of France, declare that for the moment the army will not support this insurrection to not break the European balance of power.
The French military, led by Marshal Foch, with full support from Generals Pétain, Gérard, and Fayolle, leaked Clemenceau's Rhinish concessions to the Allies, leaving the Rhine with Germany to the conservative French papers Le Matin and L'Opinion. Foch, the beloved war hero, publicly denounced Clemenceau, collapsing the French government. Under the disarray, Foch marched to Élysée and made the following remarks.
Dear French citizen, today is a tragic day. After the mismanagement of the Rhinish crisis, Clemenceau and his government decide to resign. Me, Ferdinand Foch, Marshal of France, decide to suspend the constitution for the time of the peace treaty. After this, new election will be set up. La France renaît de ses cendres, tandis que l'Allemagne s'écroule sous le poids de ses ailes.
Similar to his idol Napoleon's famous coup of the 18th of Brumaire, Foch's Jacquerie was nonetheless condoned and applauded by the French nation. Paul Tirard, the chairman of the Inter-Allied Rhineland Commission, who had been handpicked by Foch, acquiesced to Foch's first action. full military support for the separatists to oversee a democratic referendum over their rights of self-determination.
I think I will support the Rhine separatists. Military support.
Oh, hold on. I want to beseech France real quick. We're not here to balkanize Germany. We're not here to do this and to make new German states.
Not making a referendum. If the people here are revolting, there is a reason that they are revolting. So why not make a referendum where we have some observants like US, UK, and France make a referendum in this region? Because if the people here revolt, there is some cause for this revolt.
I would disagree. I think that the revolt is really not widespread enough to warrant a full referendum. When the vast majority of people would vote to, I mean, you can hold a referendum, but it will inevitably vote to join Germany. However, I think this is when we can bring up our idea for a federal model of a German state, because that way, every region has autonomy. So Germany has already been, for many years, a very federal state. All of the individual kingdoms and duchies and counties and things had a lot of autonomy. Our proposal is that we just reorganize those states so that they are a lot more equal, because currently Prussia contains something crazy like 2/3 of all Germans, and then there's 7 tiny states in Thuringia. It makes no sense. So it's just reorganizing it into much more equal units that will help to spread decision making out, give all of the individual regions autonomy, preventing something like the Kulturkampf from happening again, and also perhaps quelling fears of, that people in the Rhine had of being persecuted. Just federal model, more spread out decision making, more autonomy.
I can support a federal model. I absolutely back this.
The Rhineland is core Prussian territory and a rightful part of Germany. We would never let it have an independent country, let alone their own state within Germany.
I'm not proposing anything, but I want just to say it. But there is some case where in the constitution of Germany there were certain form that can rig the constitution, like the class voting system that makes certain people in Germany, like the poorest and also a certain minority, to not have the same power in the vote. I just wanted to say this to you to show that technically the Prussian dominance are not a dream but a reality.
I'd like to point out that this has been a new constitution and new government created by the German people. So this, I think, in its purest essence, goes against the ideas of self-determination. The German people have created this government because they feel like it represents them. So the idea that they don't know how they need to be represented, I think, is foolish to impose anything else.
I would just say that allowing, breaking up the former royal states, which is exactly what they are. Prussia only looks like that because it was the Kingdom of Prussia, same with Bavaria, same with Saxony, etc. It leads to a much more of a clean break with the old regime. We don't want that system to still be in place.
You don't want that legacy.
Yeah, I'm okay with having votes within the state of Prussia to maybe split off, I guess I'm not sure of the specific borders, but split off like a Thuringia and split off that thing into multiple states. But completely overhauling the German governmental model, I think that needs to be opposed.
I also oppose overhauling it. Like German, again, I feel like we should not just show up and just begin to completely restructure the German state or demand that they restructure their state. It's already been restructured from an empire to a republic. We don't want the German people to feel like this is a foreign government that's been forced upon them and set up. I feel like this should be avoided.
Also, I would like to just give out a call that if Italy does back me here in making these divisions much more fair, I would be willing to support a Treaty of London, full Treaty of London in future.
Write that down. Britain says the Treaty of London goes through. Write that down. It's literally better. Do you want them to be oppressed, Mr. Autodetermination?
It's self-determination. Let them self-determine how they want to set up their own government.
I think that the redrawing of the state should be left up to a plebiscite, as I believe America suggested. Like, the idea of redrawing the state of Prussia is going to be difficult, as many people were born and raised in what is now Prussia, but was a century ago not Prussia. Many of them see themselves as Prussians ethnically and identitarian-wise, even those that live in the western regions or the former areas of the Rhineland.
Let the Germans vote if they want to do it.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do this.
It's the German government. It's not our government. Who are we to demand how they should organize their states and their government? Who are we to do that?
Okay.
Forcing Germany to redraw our state borders flies exactly in the face of self-determination. This is only for the German people to decide and not for foreign powers to influence us. Our state borders will stay.
We clearly see now the danger of the Germanic yoke, not wanting to decentralize the new republic and give more autonomy to the minorities, wanting to maintain a Prussian dominate in the new republic. This shows that the fight for freedom by the Rhenish fighter is justified, and so it's a duty for France to help them achieve their independence.
As the Germans, especially the Prussians, refused to redraw and balance the German states, France was emboldened to hold a referendum over the Rhine's future. Major cities like Aachen, Cologne, and Mainz saw a massive spike for the separatists, as the pro-German camp had hoped for their own state. Berlin's refusal to even consider a Rhinish state hurt their cause. Despite the French assurances, Britain and America doubted the strength of the separatists and had doubts over a vote, demanding France should prove why it needed to take place.
I'm not sure that this referendum will have a German victory, because technically, if you see how the Catholics were treated in this German Empire, you will see that the Catholic doesn't support the German Empire. Like we see the event that occurred during the Culture Kampf, when the Catholics were oppressed in their political rights, in their economical rights. I don't think the Catholic really support Germany, especially when we see what they suffer during 50 years.
I would like to add something. I agree with that, with the position of Catholics and the German Empire. Because if you remember, with Culture Kampf, they tried putting us down and, propping up their Prussian control of it. Most of the German Empire was based around that central model. And you can see what happened with only around 50 years of Germany being a country, and we were already in this mess, and it would not be beneficial to the balance of power in Europe for them to still control this large industrial area under these warmongers dragging the Rhenish people and the other German people into this war and just destroying the land, destroying everything.
Regarding the Rhineland, I am willing to recognize its independence, but like on one condition, that they do recognize claims I do have in the Rhineland.
Yes, I do believe you deserve to be compensated for this.
I personally don't like the idea of an independent Rhineland.
I would be willing to give them the land that they're claiming if they recognize my independence.
I think it's a terrible plan for the Rhineland to gain independence, because it would just destroy the German economy. Firstly, it would destroy the German economy, and secondly, if the Rhineland gains independence, that sets a really bad precedent for other regions in Europe. For example, Brittany in France. It would just destabilize Europe more.
Technically, and I don't have any minority that are unloyal, because at this time the Occitan and the Britain minority were fine with the constitution that gives them rights.
I just like to say that I agree with the Dutch point entirely. Splitting off the Rhineland for, I guess, like the sake of balance of power doesn't make any sense. In fact, it does the opposite. It throws the balance of power completely in the French favor by giving them a French, I guess, effectively a puppet state in the Rhineland and cutting Germany off of its industrial heartland.
It would be a heavily industrialized, state as well that would be very French aligned.
True. I think the U.S. brings up a good point. I think entertaining separatist movements that have no proven popularity in the region at this conference doesn't make any sense.
They are, if you see, because like I said, Cutterkampf make more of the Catholic doesn't support German unification and German, and in general the idea of a German republic dominated by Prussian. With the help, I will make a referendum in the region. If they want to be independent, they will get the independent. If they don't, they will not. And you can have oversight, you and Britain, on this situation. So I can't rig the vote.
France, I beseech you, please don't do this.
France, if you agree to a completely neutral and unbiased referendum, and make it a temporary, since we do already occupy the Rhineland, we can set up a referendum, we can all jointly oversee it, and then respect the results. Then I think we can prevent a total collapse of Germany.
France believed Britain, so the two went ahead with the vote, but in a shocking turn of events, the French-held referendum to separate the Rhine overwhelmingly saw the people vote to leave Germany. The main reasons behind this separation were the heavy financial support France promised them for infrastructure, the French military had provided food while Britain and America kept them embargoed, and favorable trade deals were signed, all of which built rapport between the two states. An equally seminal factor, though, that France rightfully pointed out was the religious divide between the Catholic Rhinish people and the Protestant Germans to the east. Once Berlin refused to redraw the internal states of the Republic, many Rhinelanders feared a new wave of religious and cultural crackdowns was imminent. News of the results led to massive celebrations throughout France, while Britain immediately backstabbed France, declaring the results invalid due to illegitimate voting conditions and low turnout. Dr. Adam Dorton, the head of the Rhinish movement, who had worked closely with the French military, was sworn in as a new president of the Rhine. France declared their occupation ended, as the Rhine had been liberated from their Prussian oppressors. They were brethren, not foes. Terrard dissolved the Inter-Allied Rhineland High Commission, transferring all territories to the new republic, as hundreds of thousands of French and Belgian troops swarmed the British and American occupation zones. Both were unwilling to leave until allegedly Rhinish agitators, though some suspect this was French infiltration, attacked the troops. A few Brits responded, killing 2 men, and the media made a field day of it, forcing the Americans and Brits to retreat due to international pressure. France and Belgium lost all remaining voting power throughout this section of the treaty, and would be greatly reduced in all subsequent treaties, now internationally viewed as a pariah for essentially forcing a separate Rhinish state through military means. This may become important later. Falk mediated talks between Belgium and the Rhine, reducing the totality of the Belgian claims as Aachen became the new Rhinish capital. Britain's change in policy was puzzling for the French as they had supervised the voting, but France saw this slight as a return to the standard British untrustworthiness. Back in Britain, papers painted an ominous picture of Foch as the new Napoleon. Wilson took the pro-French outcome as a personal slight, souring ties for France and Belgium with America.
I cannot believe this happens. I denounce this. I denounce this balkanization of Germany. This sets a dangerous precedent. Who knows who else is going to try to declare independence now? We didn't want to destroy Germany. This is going to cause lasting diplomatic damage into the future. I am abhorred by this. I beseech the German delegation and the German public to please not take this to heart and try to preserve peace in Europe. Please.
We in Belgium think this is funny.
That's great, Belgium. I'd like to point out a lot of irony I see from the Rhenish delegation. They were talking about like self-determination, and this is about like protecting Rhenish independence. But now they're willing to sell out their fellow countrymen to France, Belgium, and Luxembourg just for independence.
Indeed.
So this is a sham, I think, and frankly a power grab by the leaders of this Rhenish state, quote unquote.
America will not be recognizing the independence of the state and will not be conducting foreign trade with it at all. I have one small thing, maybe. I have one small thing. If there's going to be this independence referendum in the Rhine, I demand that there's an independence referendum in Brittany. I mean, this is the precedent we're setting.
So why not make an independence referendum in Puerto Rico, Panama Canal, and the western coast of that are majority populated by...
No, we're talking about Europe, not America. We're talking about Europe, not America.
Yes, but if you want to to make your point of view of self-determination, why not you directly put it in your own country if you really want to make it on other country? First, you will have to do in your own country self-determination, and after you can impose it on other country.
I thank the delegations who supported me in my right to self-determination.
You're getting embargoed.
Why are you embargoing neutral nations, dude?
I'm embargoing the Rhine. It's not a real state. It's an unrecognized state. I'm not going to trade with it until it rejoins Germany.
Germany would just like to say that we hold no ill will to the Rhenish population. Of course, they are Germans just as us. But I think their government is a sham, and frankly, they're bad actors. And this is not a popular government.
This is what's just happened is a travesty. And I will also not be recognising this state, as it is little more than a French puppet, and will completely ruin the stability of Europe.
Britain, will you join me in a mutual embargo of the Rhine until they rejoin?
In a mutual embargo.
Okay. I will be moving to support the German government in this to industrial subsidies and whatnot.
I agree. I agree. I would like to support.
I don't understand your point. You want to make a referendum in the Rhineland?
This is ruining the balance of power for the rest of the treaties.
Britain, we're going to have to do what we can to preserve the balance of power from here on out without the French.
I can't believe this.
The Anglo-American bloc solidified against the French, as the Netherlands brought their proposal.
As we know, the Netherlands wasn't included in the Great War, but in the original Schleswig plan, the Netherlands was to be invaded too. This threat to Dutch neutrality is an insult to the Netherlands. I propose the Netherlands gets a tiny bit of land up to the River Ems, as to serve as a strong defensive border to prevent any invasion by a foreign power. It's just a very small bit of land, and it isn't about annexing large parts of Germany, but purely for the strategical region of the River Ems, because rivers, as we know, are very defensible in war.
Can I address this? I'd like to point out that what the Netherlands is describing is a direct annexation. And two, I would like to point out the great irony that the Netherlands is currently protecting the former Kaiser of Germany from International War Crimes Court. And they've been trading with Germany throughout the entire war. So the suggestion that they should be rewarded for helping the Central Powers, who are the losers, I think is preposterous.
This is so much a reward as just preventing another invasion by predominantly the German Republic.
I'd like to point out that there was no invasion. And in fact, again, the Netherlands has been supporting the German government throughout the entire war and is protecting the Kaiser from War Crimes Court. So
I would be fine with putting the Kaiser on trial if it was to be in the International Court in The Hague. I don't know if it exists.
So you're only okay putting him on trial as long as it's in a Dutch international trial. I don't want him executed, but he should be put on trial because he.
Wait, guys! Execution is off the table. We're not going to execute the Kaiser. That's not going to happen.
In the last years of the war, the Kaiser was kind of deposed by military generals. So I think he should be tried for his involvement in starting the war, like giving the black check to Austria. We can trial for him for that. But I think like anything after a certain point, like the party was taken over by I don't remember the exact year. He basically lost the power to those generals. All those crimes shouldn't go to him. They should go to Hindenburg and the other guy, Ludendorff.
Yeah, if we're gonna have cases against the Kaiser, then we should also execute the whole German military command because it was predominantly their ideas. I would prefer if we don't try the Kaiser, as he is a good friend of the royal family. But if the whole entire world wants to try him, then it would be okay. We're not. I'm not gonna start a war over this, but I would prefer it if we don't put him for trial. But every major great power wants it. I'm not gonna stop it.
With tacit Dutch approval, the great powers debated if they should try the Kaiser, and Italy ended up with the deciding vote.
Hey, does anyone want to offer me something to try the Kaiser?
I will back your claims in Dalmatia.
You will back the Treaty of London in Dalmatia. You will back Italian Dalmatia.
I will support the Treaty of London.
Okay, let's try a Kaiser, guys. Mr. Wilson, remember all the bad things I was saying about you? Completely forget that. I actually love you, Mr.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what are the options? Prison, death?
I vote for exile.
Exile to where though? Well, let's choose another. Let's choose Elba. No, let's send him to Saint Helena, like Napoleon to Saint Helena.
Yes.
You know what? I enjoy the historical irony of exiling another emperor to Saint Helena.
Elba, I would hate him, and I kind of would like to have a Kaiser just standing in Elba. You know, I don't know. It's kind of cool. We still have the house Napoleon was in because it actually became like a we kept it. It's still there today. So we're gonna host the Kaiser in the exact same house Napoleon was in Elba.
I guess as long as the Kaiser isn't being like executed or something, if they'd like to exile him to Elba instead of the Netherlands, I guess it's not a big deal to me.
Kaiser Wilhelm absolutely deserves to be exiled. We do recommend he stay somewhat close to Europe as not to anger the entirety of the German population as we see it fit. We have to make sure that Germany remains somewhat intact, even though they are getting removing their Kaiser.
So now I propose we send the Kaiser to Madeira, because Portugal hosts a lot of political exiles, and I think it would be the best option. It's far from Europe, but in Europe, and I think it would be perfect. It would be perfect.
Parties were relatively split between Madeira and Elba, resulting in Wilhelm being sent to St. Helena, a fitting end for the deposed emperor, following in Napoleon's footsteps, setting a potential precedent for future European conflicts. Back to Holland, despite the phony protestations over the Rhine, Britain wanted to strip more German lands in favor of the Dutch.
So, I would definitely support a referendum on the region, west of the Ems River. Also, possibly the pocket. I can't remember what it's called exactly. I think the Netherlands can.
The Bentheim pocket.
Yes.
Yeah, the pocket next to it. We can also do that one because it's straight out the border.
I would support a referendum, so no annexation. Chances are they vote to stay with Germany, but let the people decide. And I think, unless anyone has any other ideas,
I'd like to point out that these areas, I believe they are like strongly majority German, but so I think the referendum will turn out in my favor, so I guess I'll let it go, but I think it's a waste.
Receiving unanimous support for the Bentheim plebiscites, Netherlands forwarded further ideas.
In the spirit of reconstruction and economic stability in Western Europe, the Dutch would like to propose, 1, a joint commission for the Rhine and the Meuse, as was also requested by the Kingdom of Belgium. And furthermore, we would like a limited custom union for international agreements on customs and tariffs for Western Europe, for which we'll invite the Benelux, Germany, Denmark, and France if they want to join.
I'm not opposed to this.
Me and Britain have the Rhinish state embargoed, so we're no trade into the Rhine.
I issue an invite to the state of Germany.
Germany cannot join or recognize any organization that supports the independence of the Rhineland or supports.
They're not supporting the independence
of France.
No, I am not. I'm saying an international convention of navigation on the Rhine.
No, definitely not.
I'm sorry, like maybe in different circumstances we could agree to this, but we can't at this point because the Rhineland is under embargo. We don't want any sort of trade commissions or anything like that that could potentially bypass this, okay? We're going to starve them out if need be until they rejoin Germany.
I really think that's a bad statement from America.
You are not a real state. You
Shouldn't
are
we be
German.
focusing on rebuilding and getting back on our feet after this? I feel like doing that just kind of hindering everyone from rebuilding because you don't want to recognize me as independent.
I mean, like, you're a fake country, so like.
National community will misconstrue what I'm saying about the Rhineland. Fine, I did not extend an invitation to the Rhineland, but anyway, I need to honor my agreement with the Kingdom of Belgium, so we'll just settle on international cooperation on the Rhine and the Meuse as it pertains to Belgium and the Netherlands.
Due to the support the French and Belgian governments have given to the Rhenish people, the Rhineland is happy to announce the formation of a defensive pact between our three countries.
In an absolutely shocking turn of events, the military alliance between the Rhine, France, and Belgium gave control over all Rhine bridgeheads to the French, who quickly began constructing major joint military bases on both sides of the river, cementing the separation from Germany, as any German attempts to retake the Rhine would be almost impossible, and trigger another world war. The issue over Schleswig and the Danes was discussed next.
Well, to put it simply, what the Danes wish to reclaim from Germany is the land up to the Ida River. This does not include the city of Kiel, which is itself somewhat divided between the lines. We believe that should remain German, but the land above the Ida River have for centuries been considered the Danish homeland and heartland. It is again a river dividing line between the Danes and the Germans, and again all the way up to the Schleswig Wars. It had a large, again, Danish population before, again, Prussian and then later Germans attempt to Germanize them by removing them, by forcefully conscript them with threats of taking their land and their possessions. To put it simply, we fully believe that, again, all the lands above the river should be returned to Denmark as its historical heartland in order to fulfill the natural borders of Denmark.
I would like to say that I think nothing here should go directly to Denmark. If anything, we should again perform referendums, plebiscites, whatever you want to call them, in the region of Schleswig. See what votes to join them, can join them. What doesn't vote to join them, well, we'll stay with Germany. They didn't get involved in the war. You know, why should they gain any more than votes to join them?
In 1864, Denmark was kind of wrongfully invaded by Germany and lands were shorn away from them that were not entirely German. I think the difference here is that this is a situation of non-German lands being conquered just to kind of reinforce a German state. And I suppose I can agree with the British on perhaps referendums in the southern parts, but I believe at least northern parts should just go to Denmark, and we can perform referendums in the southern parts closer to Kiel. That would have heavier German densities to see if those areas would rather be in a Danish state.
Thank you. Again, as I said, all the way back to the Schleswig, the Germans, first the Prussians and then the German government itself, has again forcefully again Germified the region, moving in German populations to the area, removing the Danish population, even instigating anti-Danish laws. To be completely frank, I don't believe that we can again just say because they are German now after some 50 years of strong Germanification that we should then just accept it being now, because that would send an even worse precedent. I believe that, again, if a country can just hold the land for long enough and, well, ethnically change it, then they suddenly have a stronger claim to it. To be completely frank, I do believe that even if there is a strong German majority some places, that the land should rightfully go to Denmark.
You would not persecute these Germans, right? You would not repay violence with violence, and you would try to integrate them into the nation, perhaps even guarantee high autonomy to these states, full rights to the people?
I would say it already now that Germans already have a close place in Denmark, and again, we will not persecute them. There were dealings with one of the German representatives about a population transfer, which would again also be sort of a way to lower the reparations. It was a deal made with the French, so it may not apply anymore. But to put it quite bluntly, again, Denmark does not wish to, again, harm or forcefully, again, evict any Germans. If they want to stay in the new Denmark, then they will have all the rights of Danes, as in the area, and if they want to move, money and effort would be made available, for both the Danes and the German government to allow them to move to the actual Germany.
So I think the U.S. is breaking with their promises that Wilson has made of, again, annexation for the sake of annexation and self-determination. Because one, I would say Denmark wasn't even a member of the war, same as the Netherlands. So this is just a land grab.
Hold on.
Land from Germany. And additionally, I have no problem with the majority Danish land going to Denmark, but suggesting that they should get a large majority German land, 70% plus majority German land, just because, again, they're not even a member of the war. I think it's a complete break with U.S. policy and doesn't make any sense.
You do recognize that you did displace mass Danes to move Germans and essentially Germanize this area, and that's not an okay thing to do. I'm not trying to dismantle. I'm not trying to annexation for the sake of annexation. All right, we're trying to right the wrongs of Europe and make sure that there's not going to be any more hostility. If you're okay with Danish-only areas, how would you answer previously Danish-controlled areas that you fully Germanized? Are you saying that Denmark has no claims on these regions whatsoever? Are you saying that ethnic moving is a good way to preserve core territory?
Unfortunately, these actions have already been taken place, and so I think the suggestion that you should force people who live there who are at no fault of their own.
I don't want to displace anybody. I don't support the Danish on that. I don't support the Danish on forced population movement.
I have a possible counter proposition for anyone who would like to hear it, which is that we create an international Kiel Canal zone, just to make, and then give Denmark everything north of that. That way we can facilitate trade. It can possibly have a referendum to rejoin Germany or Denmark in 15 years' time. But this way it would just be a similar proposition. Denmark gain basically the same as what they would gain from their proposition, except it also gives slightly more of a guarantee of trade neutrality to Britain and America. And
it's
the free market flow.
Yep. And I will throw out. I hold on, and I'm willing to compensate the Germans economically and industrially if they're willing to agree to this. I'd be willing to pay them for it out of the American coffers.
The idea that Germany can be bought to have their land stripped away from them is, I think, extremely insulting America and goes against entirely what you stand for. Again, this goes back to exactly what I said, breaking the U.S. promises of punitive punishment and taking land just for the sake of taking land. I think all that should happen is there should maybe be referendum north of the Kiel Canal, and the people there can decide, each municipality where to join. And so the majority Denmark areas can join Denmark, and the majority German areas will stay with Germany.
By the Germans' own argument that the actions have already taken and now areas are majority German, therefore they should stay German. If we went with British American proposals and Denmark then just removed all the Germans from the area, forcefully or not, and just make clear Denmark will not, then in 50 years' time, Denmark could then claim, the entire land is now rightfully Danish land because we Danified it. It is not a good precedent to set for a peaceful world order.
I would agree with Denmark. I don't think it's a good policy to forcefully remove and Germanize these areas. But unfortunately, it's already been done, right? So I don't think it makes sense to force these Germans out or force them into a foreign country where they do not want to be a part of. That was my point. I'm not justifying the actions taken because I don't think they're justifiable. I posted an alternative map that splits the majority Danish and majority German.
I have a proposal. I think the area north of what Germany has posted should rightfully be always Danish. It should not be a plebiscite. And then we make anything south of that, between it and the Kiel Canal, a plebiscite. I think because if we make it all a plebiscite, there's a chance, because the southern territories are more populated, Germany is just going to win the entire thing, and that the majority Danish part will just stay in Germany, which is not fair to the Danish people that live there.
The canal is going to be international for 15 years. A referendum, a plebiscite, whatever you want to call it, gets put in place if they want to rejoin Denmark or if they want to rejoin Germany, and the profits from the canal is going to be used to rebuild Europe.
Despite the German protestations, no plebiscites were formed north of the Idar River, granting all lands to Denmark. The British plans over the Kiel Canal were realized, as a new Free State of Kiel was formed, neutral from both Germany and Denmark, with a future referendum in 15 years. If either side attempted to seize Kiel by force prior to the referendum, the League of Nations would recognize it as part of the other state. Germany expressed their valid anger at the outcomes of the treaty.
I think this shows a great amount of hypocrisy from, I think, all but the British delegation. The Americans come here and preach of self-determination. They preach of a lasting peace and a fair peace deal, and they've turned their back on it. They've turned their back on the losing power of Germany. I hope we can make some better deals in the future, but I think currently this conference has failed at its job at creating a lasting peace.
Germany, I will mention the only reason this is the exception. This is not the norm. This is based just on this territory was Danish that was stolen and then resettled with Germans. That this is the exception, and this is not the norm for how this conference will go. This is the one difference here.
Well, I would just like to point out that so far, despite U.S. supposed attempts to prevent it, that's how the entire conference has gone. So I could not stop the French.
I could not stop the French.
Foreign policy, a failure.
I've tried.
Foreign policy.
This is not a failure of U.S. foreign policy. This is victory for Wilsonianism.
I cannot say that I don't understand where Germany come from. I am happy that this historical wrong has been righted, but I do understand him. And I also want to reaffirm to all powers that Denmark will, of course, not persecute the Germans or take away any of their rights, nor will we forcibly remove them.
The Sorbs, a small Slavic group from eastern Saxony and Brandenburg, wished for autonomy, hoping to end the millennium of Germanization and save their unique culture.
Hello, I represent the nation of Sorbia, and I wanted to ask if Germany could give us some autonomy. I know it's something that could be difficult, but it's something that we at least want. It's a maximum requirement. We don't ask much.
I mean, they have the same rights as every other German, and the Sorbians occupy a very, very small minority of the population. I don't think it makes sense to give them any special treatment.
We are talking for language. We can teach our languages in our schools, in our little villages, to preserve our culture and our language. We live in very far villages from big cities to vote. We normally can't vote, so we were oppressed also, like the southern Germans. We just look forward to a democratic Germany where we can vote and preserve our cultural and language.
I'm not willing to give you any special rights over Germans, but I guess I can guarantee I will not force the German language to be taught by you or learned by
taught in school, forced Germanization.
Yeah, forced Germanization.
That's acceptable, at least.
Wilson followed through on his belief in self-determination, overseeing the Sorbian arrangement ending Germanization. For many powers, the important parts of Versailles were still coming up. Eastern Europe, fraught with petty wars, ethnic rivalries, and an impending threat of communism that could topple European civilization as they knew it. Eastern Europe took over 3 hours of the recording, so it will be released once I edit it down and this reaches 7,000 likes. So subscribe to stay tuned. If you want to represent a state in the upcoming treaties, join my Discord and sign up below. I recommend you click here to see where all World War I peace treaties were completed together. I'll catch you over there. Thanks.